Self-care is always important, but especially when life gets stressful or overwhelming, or when things feel scary or uncertain, I think having a self-care practice that works for you is so important and basically vital for our mental, emotional, and physical health. So today I want to share 30 do's and don'ts of self-care with you. I talk a lot about self-care on this channel, and these will be kind of like my ultimate top tips for creating a system that works for you, for your schedule, your circumstances, so that you can do the things you need to do to take good care of yourself and through that also be there for others. Welcome back everyone, and if you're new here, my name is Vera and this is a place where you can get tips and inspiration for living a simpler, happier and calmer life. So be sure to hit subscribe down below if you haven't already to follow along whenever I post a new video. I just got back from kind of like a self-care week myself. I wasn't feeling too great, but I'm feeling a bit better now. So ready to slowly get back into my work routine, and I'm excited to talk about self-care with you today. Do take time to process your feelings. And don't keep things bottled up. It depends on what works for you. I find for me a great way to process my feelings is to kind of just sit with them for a while. So I will set my alarm for 15 or 30 minutes and allow myself to basically feel however I'm feeling, and then kind of just go on with my day after the timer goes off. I find that to be very helpful, but maybe for you it's something else, like going for a walk or for a run or talking about your feelings with a friend. Don't feel that self-care is selfish. Self-care is about replenishing your own resources, and I know many people have trouble with that, prioritizing their own needs instead of helping others, but it is so important that you do, because we cannot be there for others or for ourselves if we're pouring from an empty cup, and you are absolutely worth it to prioritize your own needs when you need to. Do things that make you feel good. Dancing, going for a walk, reading a book, whatever you like. If there's an activity that puts a smile on your face, then try to do that as often as possible. I often find myself, if I'm not feeling too well, that it is because it's been too long since I've done something that puts a smile on my face. Also, don't do self-care that doesn't make you feel good. The first word in self-care is self, so personalize it. There is so much aspirational content out there about self-care that it might make you feel like that is what you're supposed to do, but one size does not fit all here. What works for someone else might actually make you feel miserable, and it's okay to acknowledge that. So for me, exercising in the morning is just something I cannot get behind no matter how I try, and that is perfectly okay. So personalize it and don't do the self-care activities because that's what others are doing, especially online. Do go back to the here and now and focus on your senses. Especially when you're feeling overwhelmed, scared, or stressed, when you're feeling worried and you're too much in your head, then try to practice getting back to the here and now by focusing on your senses. What's going on in your direct environment? Maybe you're hearing the traffic or the birds. Maybe you choose to focus on one of your plants for a while, or focus on how the air feels around you. Maybe you want to drink a cup of tea and focus on that. This is a small trick that works wonders. Don't feel like your problems don't matter because there are other issues going on right now that are worse. There has been so much going on in the world these last couple of years, but that doesn't mean that you are supposed to always feel happy and grateful because others have it worse, or that you are not allowed to talk about your issues and acknowledge them. You're allowed to feel pain, you're allowed to feel sadness, you're allowed to feel worried. We're all experiencing very complex emotions at times, and that is totally okay. So try to find a balance between, yes, realizing that you still have a lot to be grateful for, but on the other hand, also acknowledging your frustrations instead of feeling like they shouldn't matter. Do communicate with others what you need to stay happy and healthy. People usually expect you to do things in the way that you've always done them, unless you tell them otherwise. So tell people when you need a break, or let people know if you don't have the energy to do something and ask for their help, or let people know which activities you need to do regularly to stay happy and healthy. Don't ignore the signs your body is giving you. This could easily be its own video. I have so much to say about this as someone who finds this extremely difficult, which is also partly why I burned out a couple of years ago in the first place. This continues to be a thing for me, but I am trying really hard to do this because it's so important. When you're hungry, eat something. When you need to go pee, go pee. When you feel a headache coming on or some back pain, maybe check your posture, take a break for a couple minutes. If you're feeling tired, go to bed early when you can. If I could only give you one tip, it would be this one. Do respect your natural limits. Another one that is so important. I used to always feel so frustrated that I couldn't do more than I naturally could. But you know what? Nothing good is going to come from you not respecting your limits and from crossing them on an ongoing basis. So you need to know where your line in the sand is that says to here and no further, and respect that as often as you can, and be grateful for all the things that you are able to do instead of wishing that you could do more. Don't think that self-care has to look pretty or aspirational. I love that there's so much content about self-care online, but please don't feel like your self-care needs to look like that, because that's not always realistic. Maybe you don't have 5 hours to do a whole routine, or, I like to decompress by just wearing my cozy pajamas, no makeup, hair all over the place. It doesn't look pretty, but it helps me to decompress. Do get organized. If you're someone who feels better when you're planning things, try to focus on things that you have control over. So make lists, make plans. Usually whenever I feel stressed because I feel like I have 1,000 things to do, all it takes for me to feel better is to create a simple list, because it shows me that, first of all, it's not as much as I thought it was. And second, I can rest easy because they're all written down, so I know I won't forget them. Don't avoid confrontations where you need to establish boundaries. One of the most important things in taking good care of yourself is establishing and communicating boundaries, both with yourself as well as with others. And you shouldn't avoid confrontations like that, because one scary or awkward conversation can save you a lot of heartache over time. And if you want to know more about how to do that, I have a whole video about it on Patreon, so feel free to join us, patreon.com/simplehappyzen. Do tailor your exercising to how you're naturally feeling that day. If you had an intense workout planned, but you're actually feeling really sore and tired and you don't have the energy, maybe do some stretching or a yoga class instead. Sometimes we can go all out, and sometimes we need something that's lower energy, and that is totally fine. Don't keep doing things that drain your energy. If an activity is not absolutely essential, then don't keep doing it if it drains your energy. Life is too short to keep doing things you don't enjoy. And we might already have things like school or work or other kinds of obligations that you simply cannot just stop that easily. So if it is something that's not absolutely essential, then know that no is also a great word to use. Do try to keep a little time free in your calendar. How much depends on your schedule. If you're doing something and it takes longer than you anticipated, then you won't have to stress, because you know that there's that empty pocket of time in your calendar where you can do it. Or if that doesn't happen, that means that you have some time free for self-care. So don't plan your calendar to the max. Try to leave some empty spaces open here and there. Don't think that self-care should make you better for others. Self-care is 100% for you, and this might sound like duh, but I actually think that this is an important pitfall of self-care, where you're doing it to improve yourself for others. For example, with exercising, when you're not doing it because you enjoy it or because it makes you feel healthy and you want to take good care of your body, but you're doing it to be that girl or to improve yourself for others, and that is not necessary by any means. Do surround yourself with people who make you feel good. People that are uplifting, that make you feel happy and inspired and at ease and confident. And also try to limit the time you spend with people who make you feel bad or insecure as much as possible. Don't think you have to buy fancy things to practice self-care. In fact, honestly, you don't even need anything most of the time. Basically, all of my self-care activities are free, or they don't require anything. I know that there are tons of really fancy self-care things out there that you can buy, and you totally can if you want to, but you honestly don't have to. And if you need a little inspiration, I have a video with 20 self-care activities that you can check out right there. Do ask for help when you need it. You don't have to do everything alone and carry all of the burdens by yourself. You can ask people when things get to be too much, or when you simply just need a little help with something, practice asking for it, because people won't know unless you ask them. Don't forget about the basics. Self-care can be as fancy as you like, but for me, whenever I notice I'm not feeling too great, I always return to the basics first, and that makes a huge difference. So what are you eating? How well are you sleeping? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting some fresh air? Can you go for a walk? These things are basics for a reason. Do make a self-care list with activities you enjoy. It's great if you have a list of about 10 or 20 self-care activities that you like to do with different time investments. So things that take 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and things that take an hour or more when you have the time, so that whenever you have a little time, you can just whip out your list and select one of the activities that you want to do. Don't use a screen for all of your self-care activities. It's okay if it's once in a while, like maybe you're the type of person who really enjoys watching a movie, but try to also have some activities that don't involve a screen, because in my experience, these are more helpful for me to kind of get back to myself and feel centered. Do schedule one self-care activity each day in your to-do list. Our to-do list usually consists of things we need to do for work or school or our family, so things we have to do. And it really helps if you can add one self-care activity to that list as well, no matter how small. Don't worry about feeling worried or stress about being stressed. Feeling anxious, especially in times of uncertainty, is absolutely normal, and I find that it works much better if I just accept however I'm feeling and try to deal with it the best way I can, instead of getting all worked up about it. Do practice self-compassion. This means being warm and understanding towards yourself and showing yourself the same compassion that you show others. You're doing your best. You deserve to be kind to yourself, to comfort yourself when you're suffering, to give yourself a mental hug, or if it's not too cringy for you, give yourself a real hug. Don't try to keep everything under control. Because as much as we would like it to be different, there is so much going on that is outside of our control, and failing to acknowledge that can set you up for a lot of potential heartache. So if it is something that you can control, great. And if not, then feel free to at least try to let it go. Do practice gratitude. In whatever way, shape, or form that works for you, gratitude lists, journaling, noticing things as they are happening, actively thanking people for being in your life, appreciating the food that you're eating. We know that gratitude is associated with happiness, and it is always available for us to practice with it. Don't feel bad if you haven't made time for self-care lately. Life gets messy. We can't do it all the time, and that's okay. Sometimes I am great with self-care, sometimes I'm horrible with it, and that is perfectly okay. Just notice when you've kind of fallen off the wagon and move on and get back to it. Do force yourself to take scheduled breaks during your day. If you're like me, then you're probably not taking enough breaks unless you schedule them. You can even set an alarm in your phone. That is what I do. And we are not robots. We're not designed to work for hours in a row without taking a break. And if you take regular breaks, not only will you have more energy, but you will also be more productive down the line. Don't put off your self-care because you feel others deserve your time more. Neglecting your own personal needs to take care of others will eventually not lead to anything good for anyone, and you absolutely 100% deserve to look after yourself, and it doesn't have to take much time. The good news is that small or even tiny self-care actions on a daily basis can have a huge impact. So be sure to plan it, schedule it, and actually do the things that you need to do to feel your best. Let me know your thoughts about this video, and of course your do's and don'ts about self-care in the comment section. I'd love to know. I'm thinking of turning this into kind of like a small series on the channel. I've done a minimalism do's and don'ts and now self-care. So let me know what topic you would like a do's and don'ts video about next. A very special thank you to my patrons for supporting me and for helping me make these videos. There's a link in the description box in case you want to join as well. Right here I have my minimalism do's and don'ts video, and right here I have a personal chat about self-care when it comes to goal setting. As always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.